Dr. Shante Paradigm Smalls, they, them, is a teacher and student in Vajrayana Tantric Buddhism. They currently study under Lama Rod Owens and Lama Justin von Bujjoth, co-founders of Bhumi Sparsha. Shante began studying and practicing Buddhism at age 17 and has practiced in Zen, Soka Gakkai International, Shambhala, and Bhumi Sparsha communities. They began on the teaching path in 2009 and were authorized by the Shambhala lineage to teach meditation and Buddha Dharma in 2015. Shante is focused on the healing impact of meditation in Black, Indigenous communities, people of color communities, LGBTQ plus communities, and incarcerated and recovery communities. Shante is a teacher on the Liberate app and is a lead teacher on Weekly Dharma Gathering, which they co-founded and curate. Shante identifies as a Black person descended from enslaved and trafficked African Indigenous people. Shante is queer and genderqueer. They live on Canarsie, Munsee, Lenape, Hoking territory of otherwise known as Brooklyn, New York. So welcome, Shante. Please teach us.
Thank you so much, Gail, for hosting tonight, and thank you all for being here, both those of you who are joining live and in asynchronously, as we say in academia, as well as those of you who are watching their recording, rewatching it. So thank you for attending this second session of 8 sessions that David, my friend, and Vajra sibling, David Perrin, and I are co-leading. We'll be back on October 20th and 27th. There are other things going on, and then we'll be back in the middle of next month. Tonight's theme or deeper exploration around encountering basic goodness is around body and posture as a kind of lead-in, but really talking about encountering the basic goodness of the body. Last week, David talked about the mind, really clarifying the mind, and asked these 3 questions: where am I, how am I, and why am I here? And I think those questions are really beautiful, and there are many ways to touch base or encounter our experience on any level, right? Whether that's mind, whether that's body, and or speech, or some other experience of phenomenon. And so first, I just want to invite you to get comfortable, whatever that feels like for you, whether that's you want to lay down, or you want to stand, you want to turn on the heat, you want to turn on the fan or the AC, you want to get something warm or water, you want to change seats, you want to sit differently. Just that sometimes with meditation, and I'm going to talk about this quite a bit, we really ironically forget about the body. There's a kind of way, either mostly I think we're too rigid. I mean, there is a kind of saying of, not too tight, not too loose, but I actually think we're mostly too tight. Some people are too loose, but there's a lot of, when you say, okay, we're going to meditate, people, there's a kind of rigidity or kind of punitive idea of discipline that sometimes comes to mind. And there's a kind of tightness or squeezing or holding. And really, the instructions encourage us to relax with our experience, to abide, to gently abide. So I think first what I'm going to do is walk us through some posture that we all know or we maybe are familiar with, but to really help us settle into our experience of the body, to feel into the body, both the body as it's touching other things, the floor or a chair or a couch or seat or a wall or whatever, um, but or the earth, but also the body as it's internally and externally sensed by us. So our posture is naturally, it's natural and it's uplifted. So we're not kind of sinking into ourselves, it makes it hard to breathe, and we're not overreaching with our body, but just natural, a naturally relaxed seat on the earth and uplifted or upright without being uptight. A sense of kind of soft, open, relaxed in the front of the body and kind of more form in the back of the body, and they balance each other. And again, you may stand, sit, lay down. Feeling the bottom of your body, your feet and your seat connected to the earth. So really feeling into them, that connection. That's at this point, our main connection to our mother, planet Earth. And though we walk on her and experience her every day, sometimes we forget. So this is a time to just let ourselves be able to sink into that relationship, synchronize and sync. And from that sense of gravity, letting us sink into the earth, we can also feel a bit of uprightness in our upper body. So the lower body sinks, the upper body rises. This is all sort of energetically, right? Or isometrically. Maybe there's a little muscular movement, but should be natural and relaxed. Shoulders relaxed, slightly back. Shoulder blades going down the back. The back is firm, but not tight. It drapes over our spine. Our throat, the front of our throat is relaxed. The back of our neck is long. Our belly is relaxed. And your eyes can be closed or open. But either way, they should be relaxed, soft. Your hands can really go where they feel comfortable. Some people like to place them palms down on their legs or thighs. Other people like to place them in their lap, wherever they feel most natural and relaxed. The jaw is relaxed, the forehead relaxed, the eyes relaxed. Relax the ears. The tongue is relaxed, touching the back of your bottom teeth softly, just the tip of your tongue. That helps the jaw relax and for your breathing to relax. The head is balanced on top of your neck, not leaning forward, not leaning back, just feeling everything stacked up. And then just taking a deep breath in and then exhaling. One more deep breath in. Exhale. And one more time, a deep breath in and exhale. Ah, feeling your body shift from whatever you were doing before to what you're doing now as we enter into this virtual space together. A space of non-judgment, of collectivity, of relative safety, of community, learning and discovering, of virtual and meet space. And just finding the natural alignment of your own body in relationship to earth, sky, and your environment. Sometimes that comes very easily for us. And sometimes we just need to check in and touch base. So just feel into your body. Feel into the experience of your body, wherever your body consciousness or mind consciousness takes you. Just feel into your body. How am I feeling in my body? And that could be a word, that could be a sensation, it could be a temperature, a color, a sound, but some indicator of how you're feeling, not to fix it or solve a problem or even categorize it, but to notice, to have some knowledge of what's happening, what your experience is, how you would qualify that. How am I feeling? And then I'd like you to bring your awareness or your attention to whatever part of your body feels most like your body. When you think my body, where does your awareness go? Where does your attention go? Mine goes to my belly, sometimes the soles of my feet, sometimes my fingers. Where's your body? Where do you locate that? And just feel that. Whatever arises, the shape of it, its texture, its weight, anything, the color, the temperature. And I invite you to lean into your own sense of natural or inherent dignity or self-respect and relaxation, letting your body, whatever that is to you, be both relaxed and attentive. And as you bring your awareness, or rather your attention or your mindfulness to the feeling of your body breathing, feel where you feel the breath in and outside of your body. That may be one place, and maybe multiple places, it may change. And this isn't a test that you can pass or fail. It's simply a way of feeling, sensing. Be gentle with yourself and rest in your experience for the next few minutes. If you find your discursive mind, or you find yourself, your mind paying a lot of attention to aches or pains or stories, when you notice that, it's great. Your awareness is making itself known. You can just bring yourself right back to the body, the feeling of the body breathing. Sometimes people call that home or natural, your natural resting place. And we can do that because it's natural to us. It's not something we're making up. You can bring the body and the mind and the breath into synchronicity. They're old, old friends. I sometimes imagine them holding hands. When you feel stable, bring to mind something that brings you joy, makes you smile, or makes you happy, or gives you pleasure. Where do you feel that in your physical body? Do you feel it in your physical body? And if so, where? I'll bring to mind something that makes you irritated or even angry. It can be very light, it doesn't have to be heavy. Slow walkers, close talkers, whatever it is, people who are tardy, people who are early, spam, just light irritation. Where do you feel that in your body? And finally, bring to mind something that makes you feel tender. That can be sad, or it can be just the feeling of tenderness. Something toward which or something about which you feel tender. Person, a place, a thing, plant, an animal, an experience. And where do you feel that in your body? And then just letting that melt from your mind, and all those experiences of happiness or joy, irritation, and tenderness melt into your body, your bodily experience. Bringing yourself back to a place of gently resting in space, feeling your body breathing. Okay, welcome back. If you'd like to stretch or take some breaths or stand or move, please do whatever would be helpful for you, to your body, to your mind, to your experience. Encountering basic goodness of the body. What do I want to say? Was thinking about a lot of things today. I have a lot of notes. I don't, know if I'm going to follow my script or not. But I do want to talk about the physical body, the energetic body, and the relational body. Just to even just touch on them. Obviously, our physical body, what is it? What is my attitude toward it? When do I feel in my body? Those are some of the things I sometimes ask myself. What is my physical body? That's what I ask in the meditation. Is it totality? Is it my skin? Is it the bones? Is it what I can see and can't see? Is it my sinew, muscle, blood? We're mostly made of air, even though we seem pretty solid because we're mostly made of liquid, which is mostly made of air, right? It's hard to think about because it's like, and it hurts when I, do that. But this physical body is, just that, the atoms are moving so fast that it appears solid. But I have a physical body, something we call a physical body that grows, that changes, that shrinks, that gets taller, that gets shorter, that can break, can bleed, some people can do incredible things with their body, can bend in shapes and run and leap, or we have technology that can help us move when we can't run, we can't walk, we can't leap. We have glasses for those of us, we're all cyborgs. We all have some relationship to technology that helps us in these bodies. And my experience in meditation communities has been that often the physical body is something that is left out, both in practice, except sometimes when you may have teachers or someone says, oh, you know about Alexander technique, or you're a yoga teacher, help people with their posture. And it's kind of like a afterthought. But the posture actually is a external, you could say, reflection or tool that gives our mind, consciousness, a place to rest. Right? Now, great meditators, great realized teachers, arhats, and all kinds tulkus and all kinds, they can meditate in any posture. But for the rest of us, we need to align our bodies so that, because the mind will follow sometimes. That helps the breath also. We know there are easier positions in which to breathe, and then there are positions we can go in where the breath is constricted. So we're really trying to realign these things that are naturally aligned: body, breath, and the thing we call the mind, which is not our physical brain, but which is the brain's consciousness, you could say. The body has a consciousness, the mind has a consciousness. In Buddhism, they say all of our sense perceptions have consciousness. It's not just Buddhism. Other systems also talk about the consciousness of things like our guts and our stomach, and they have intelligence. But the body, the physical body, sometimes in Western interpretations of Eastern Buddhism, is that the physical body is something to left behind. I'll get to that a little bit when I talk about the First Noble Truth and the examples that Buddha gave, which all have to do with the physical body, right? Birth, old age, sickness, and death. And that it's something to be conquered or left behind or mastered, rather than the shape that we put it in when we meditate, or when we do certain kinds of practices, when we walk, right? When we sit, that the posture actually is itself a form of wakefulness. It's a reminder of the life that we have and the body that we're in as temporarily abled or disabled or debilitated as it may be, that we have this physical form, and that we can do a physical practice to help stabilize our mind. I've even heard, I remember once I heard a Lama, Tibetan Lama, a Rinpoche, I don't remember his name, he was very old, and I heard him, and I was relatively new to Tantric Buddhism. It was maybe 2007 or 2008, and I remember him just sitting on the throne in the New York Shambhala Center, and I was way in the back. And he said that the Vajra position, the diamond-like position, with your legs crossed, was supposedly the posture of enlightenment. So even the postures can help us wake up. I notice a difference for myself. Post-COVID world, I spend a lot of time in this seat at my desk. And I teach a lot from this seat. Last year I was teaching at my job, the university, from this seat, but even in meditation, I teach a lot from the seat because I have my setup here. So I don't often, sometimes I do teach from my shrine, which is my meditation seat, my shrine, which is behind me. And I feel the difference, actually, when I just sit on my cushion or my bench, because there's a lot of meditation that has gone into those benches and those seats. There's a lot of practice, and those specific cushions, 15 years. So this physical body is not something to be left behind. The Buddha tried all kinds of practices, starving himself, really almost dying. and was saved by a young woman who gave him rice milk. And then he was like, okay, sat under the Bodhi tree and felt his body on the earth, and he even touched the earth. As he woke up, the earth is my witness, right? The Bhumi Sparsha gesture. So that this physical body, I also want to say that tendency to leave it behind, to me, I experience that as a very cultural schism. Because although a lot of times Black people and Indigenous people especially are reduced to our bodies, right? Oh, you're such good dancers. Oh, you're natural athletes. Oh, you're, you have natural rhythm. It's like, well, actually, it's learned, it's passed on, right? It's communal. We learn at a very young age. And that gets passed on also in the DNA. So, the body in my upbringing was both a site of delight, but also because I was raised in a evangelical Christian home, it was a site of shame. And particularly around sexuality. And a site of repression. And something that needed to be disciplined. So my physical body, even at my advanced age, carries a lot of contradictory messages of, also because I was a queer kid, teenager, and a peer, HIV peer counselor when I was like 15, 16, I was like, and I came of age when it was like, that they're in the age of AIDS, and it was like sex positive and safer sex, and I don't want to go into, but consciousness raising around one's body, and it was a lot. And I learned a lot about. I went to a lot of weird workshops, and there were all these contradictory messages, not just in my mind. Oh, what would my parents think? What would my super religious parents think? But my body, my body had contradictory responses. And our physical bodies carry our histories, not just our histories, but the histories of our families, our own personal trauma, our epigenetic trauma, our interpersonal trauma. I'm realizing how much physical energy that COVID, living in a post-COVID world, living in an apocalypse, it takes a lot for me. I always nap a lot, but I nap a lot. And for me, in the Buddhist communities, or spiritual communities in general, are places where, for many of us, we're taught about our families of origin, that should be places where we can relax, right? Places of safety, relative safety, right? There's no ultimate safety, but relative safety, right? When you walk into, David was talking about walking into the first center you walked into. So for some of us, maybe that was Shambhala Center. For some of maybe that was a Zen center. That was the first center I ever walked into. For some of us, that may have been a Theravadan center, or it may have been like a YMCA, right? Or a yoga class. Or I know people, their first time meditating was with their families, or in a park, or in an educational setting. And I have memories of sitting in the main shrine room at the New York Shambhala Center, where I spent a lot of years of my life, and feeling relatively safe. Not I mean, relatively safe in meditating there, but also feeling not quite at home because of who was around me, the community, who was encouraged to be there. And I was thinking about this today, and I was thinking about the experiences I've gone through in the community that trained me as a teacher, where I really deepened my meditation practice. And that physical space was given up in 2018 or January 2019, but it lives in my heart. And I was thinking about whether or not I would tell this story, but I think I do. A couple of weeks ago, I was looking through some old photos. Oh no, it was last month. I have a book coming out in June, my scholarly book, and the marketing people were asking for headshots. So I was looking through my phone and my computer because I was like, I take a lot of selfies. I was like, I like taking pictures of myself. So I had some that I knew, were like professional grade because of the way I'd taken them and the light. And I came upon a photo from 2017, November 2017, of me and my root guru, Sakyong Mipa Rinpoche. And we're beaming at each other. I mean, the smiles, I was in the middle of laughing and he was laughing, and someone had taken this photo of us where we're just smiling at each other and laughing and we're glowing. And when I saw that picture, my heart stopped and my stomach dropped. My physical body clenched. I'm remembering like seeing, and I felt I clenched, my heart stopped. I kind of gasped actually. And I felt this sense of shame, actually. I felt like heat in my body. And I felt like I wanted to get away. And I started to cry. I felt such tremendous loss. And so that these experiences that I don't know if anyone doesn't know at this point, but that I had that reaction because just 8 months later, 9 months later, there would be a report that came out from Buddhist Project Sunshine. The first report wasn't about him, but the next one was about, just what's going on in the world with many powerful men, and not just men, women and non-binary people and trans people, but many powerful, in particular men in various social locales, whether that's R. Kelly or Harvey Weinstein or the Karmapa or Sakyong Mipa Rinpoche. Harming people and behaving physically harming people, sexually harming people. And so I had this physical reaction to that moment before I knew. Still in my body, right? And so I don't want to, there's work to be done there in the body. And I work with a somatic psychotherapist. I've been working with her for a long time, for 17 years. No, wait. Yeah, since 2004. I started working with her when I was in my 20s and I had been diagnosed with cancer. And a friend gave me treatment with her, or a session with her, as a gift. And she's remained in my life ever since. I'm very grateful for her. So, okay. I just want to touch on the energetic body. We know this, some of us know this from things like chakras, right? The seven well-known chakras, but there are hundreds of chakras in the body. Or if you've ever done acupuncture or acupressure, points to the body, energetic energetic points that release, that open wind channels, fire channels, water channels, earth channels, yoga. So the energy channels in our body, the subtle body, right? And the energetic body can be, physical, obviously our, bone and blood has energy, our skin, emotional body, which is our nervous system, parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems. Our mental body, which is like our discourse, and our spiritual body, right? Which is, you could say, is connection to all things. It's a little bit different when I'm going to talk about next to the relational body, but just those qualities of the energetic body. And then the relational body, and I want to say that body is the body that is created through our experiences with other beings, right? Through our experiences with plants, animals, other humans, or through our physical experiences, right? Like, how do you learn that you are afraid of heights, right? Or like when I was younger, I used to love roller coasters. Now I'm like, I think I've roller coastered myself. I mean, I used to go on the craziest, insane. I was like, any crazy ride I was on. Now I'm like, okay, I'll go on bumper cars, But the way our body can change because of experiences or relational experiences. So that though we can have autonomy of our body, even our physical body, we're made up of a lot of bacteria, parasites, bacteria internally, all kinds of things live on us, right? Clean our skin and feed on our dead skin cells. I know it's gross, but it's true. So much of human DNA is not human. So it's a very interesting experience that this body is made up of many other beings that live in our gut, good things, but sometimes we get things in our gut that shouldn't be there, and sometimes there are good things that should be there. So this body is relational. Even if we were quote unquote all by ourselves, we're relating to the rock and the sky and the wind, the earth and the fire. Whatever we ingest, it changes us. My body is not the same as it was when I was 5 years old or when I was 25. Not just because of the physical changes, but because of the relationships I've had, the smells I've smelled, the things I've tasted, the bodies that I've held closely, the traumatic experiences that I've had, the car accidents I've been in, the bones I've broken, the surgeries I've had, the piercings, the tattoos, the technology. So this body is relational. And all of these things, the physical body, the energetic body, the relational body, we can experience them multidimensionally. We can experience them not as things to be controlled or even managed, but to be enjoyed. I was just saying yesterday to someone, my least favorite ex, I mean, the person who I really truly despise the most in the world, said this one thing that I remember, which she used to always say. She was a Lacanian psychoanalyst, but she used to say, "Enjoy your symptom." And I was like, "Shut up!" But you know, it's like, can I find the basic goodness in the things that scare me, right? The things that embarrass me about myself. I don't, though I'm in good company, I don't want to be a Buddhist meditation, a Buddha Dharma teacher, not just a meditation teacher, a Dharma teacher who has an anxiety disorder. Though pretty much, I don't know, every Buddhist Dharma teacher I know has an anxiety disorder or depression or both. Even the great teachers, you know, a lot of them, they were like, yeah, I have debilitating anxiety. You're like, okay. But yesterday it occurred to me, or Monday occurred to me, what if I enjoyed, or at least really try to feel into when I have the physical sensation of my chest tightening and my mouth going dry and my breath speeding up and my vision getting a little weird. What if I could just say, oh, this is what's happening right now, and I'm alive. I'm alive. It's happening because I'm alive. And this experience contains wisdom. Therefore, it is basically good. It is not pleasant. It is not what I want. It is not, maybe even you could say, healthy in terms of mental health that I have treatment for, right? But it is basically, meaning fundamentally good, meaning you could say worthy, having the quality of worthiness, because it's my experience. It's my experience. It's simply because it's my experience, there's wisdom. Not only wisdom, but there's wisdom. And I have to be careful sometimes with the teachings of basic goodness, because as David was talking about last, they're very deep, you know, even though they're quite fundamental, they're not rudimentary. And so it can be easy to either say, well, this horrible thing happened, so that's not basic goodness. Or anything I do, including horrible things, is basic goodness, right? So, you know, there's a kind of is intelligence, right? There's an intelligence, and there's basic goodness is also rooted, of course, in all of the values of Buddha Dharma, including ahimsa, to do no harm. So it's not a trick, or it's not a phrase to throw about, it's something to embody. It's an embodied experience. The basic goodness of walking in the morning. The light in Brooklyn is so fantastic right now. It is so amazing, the morning light. It is like, I started noticing this during COVID. I was like, did I really not notice the light before? I mean, I did, but there's something even more vibrant. The way the light shines through the trees, and the feeling of my feet and legs as I'm walking, watching my dog eat human feces 6 times this morning. And she's delighted. I'm disgusted, and she's living her best life. I'm like, okay, there's encountering an animal that's died, right? And whose corpse is in the grass or on the concrete. These are all experiences of the cycle of life. And when I am, the farther I am away from my basic sanity, my inherent sanity, the more harm I'm going to do myself, others, and the planet. And that's not going to strike me as a problem. I might even justify it, or that might even seem normal to hurt myself, others, and the planet. I might even do that willfully. I might even take enjoyment. So basic goodness, in my experience, is something that has completely disrupted my ability to live a barbaric life, to live a life of hedonism even. And I don't mean I enjoy many things that could be considered hedonistic. I don't mean I'm like a kind of Puritan, but I mean that a sense where you just don't care, right? You just don't think about your impact on others. And basic goodness is like, there's a wholesomeness, there's a wholesome quality. Some people can get turned off by basic goodness because sometimes people who talk about basic goodness do shitty things. But I'm here to say that never let anyone knock you off your path. Never let anyone steal the joy of the Dharma from you. And if the Dharma, basic goodness in this case, is embodied, if it's not just in my mind, my heart, but it's in my body too. It's in my experiences. I was so delighted this morning because I had one of these days where I just could take my time. I had no appointments. I knew I could go for a long walk with the dog. I could return emails at the pace that I wanted to. I could do nice yoga. I did yoga and I lifted weights today, both, and took a walk. Like, I'm a monster. I could meditate, take a nap. I could prep for this. And I was washing my body, and I have a whole ritual. I'm like, soaps and scrubs. And I thought about how precious it was. I was just soap and water and to be able to clean myself. And with this very nice lavender handmade soap, black owned, whatever, all the things, right? All the attachments, but just how nice it was. I have a window in my bathroom and the window was open and I could hear the sounds. And I could smell the candle and I could feel the water. And I just felt delight inside of my body, on my skin, in my mind. I felt a sense of preciousness that I had running water. That's not always guaranteed. I had the ability and the time to clean my body. And that I had a body. And this particular body has been through a lot. Still here. One day it won't be, but it's here for now, So I want to just say a couple of things about the first noble truth. So a lot of times when people talk about the Four Noble Truths, obviously the emphasis is on the Buddhist teachings of suffering, the truth of suffering, the origins of suffering, the path to cessation of suffering, and then the path leading to enlightenment. And I guess I want to talk a little bit about the origins of suffering, which you could say is the origins of dukkha, or a lot of times people say it's craving, desire, and attachment, or passion, aggression, and ignorance, the three poisons. But the Buddha talked about these four things that happen, these four markers that he saw of suffering: birth, mother and child suffer, right? Particularly, I mean, mother, child, it's like forced out of this lovely place. It's been ejected out, getting all your nutrients, warm, floating. You can breathe water, pretty awesome. And then we're forced to breathe air, right? So there's this huge go from this safe, comforting, getting the gazillion nutrients to we have to breathe on our own. We've never breathed air before, actually. So we've got to get oxygen from a different source. So suffering, babies, they slap the baby to make sure they cry. So that's one of the things that's associated with birth, is the pain of the mother, the birth giver, and the pain of the child, the cry of the child. Old age, or just aging in general. So we literally experience growing pains. You can think back to when you were like going through puberty and remember how your bones hurt and you were always hungry. And for me, I just grew. I was so tall. I was like the height I am now. By the time I was 11, it was horrifying. I was always hungry. I mean, I still am, but I was like, and I could just feel my bones kind of awkward, tripping over stuff. You're smelly, falling down, like, and then that point where I realized I'm not young anymore. It was maybe when I was like 35. I was like, oh, I'm an adult. The gleam of youth is gone, right? And now it's like, oh, I'm middle-aged. Wow. So that the suffering, for some people, that's devastating to grow to age. It feels it's a blessing. I'm like, oh, to see another day, to see another year is amazing. But it comes with its own, the body changes, the aches and pains. I went to a concert a couple of weeks ago, outdoor concert, and I didn't bring a chair like everyone else. Like an outdoor chair. And I like couldn't walk for seriously, it was like my back. I was like, oh. It's like, oh, right, I'm old, duh. And I was dancing. I was like, I forgot that I'm old. So aging, right? These are all, it has to do with the body, our physical body. What's our relationship to aging? What's our relationship to the changes that occur? Am I still desirable, right? All these things, right? Sickness, which happens at every point in our life. Physical sickness. Varying degrees of seriousness. Experiencing incredible illness or sickness or disease. And even sometimes when I just have like a cold and I'm like, or we have a really bad cold, or if anyone's had COVID, or if you have a bad flu or pneumonia, and you're like, holy shit, this body is fragile. Like, I can't make it to the bathroom, or like the thought of like heating up soup is like, that's too much energy, right? So the physical changes that can occur when you're not feeling well, and the suffering that the physical suffering, but also the mental anguish sometimes. And then finally, maybe the one we have the least relationship to, particularly in the West, is death. I have a couple of friends who are death doulas. I hope that when my time comes, if it's a transition that's not a surprise, that I can have a death doula, right? Just like doulas who usher in birth, that people who can help you in the death process. That's a process itself. And this is actually what meditation is preparing us for, is when our consciousness is ejected, separate from the body, that we remember who we are, that we don't forget the Dharma when we go the intermittent stage. And sometimes even a friend of mine, I'd spent some time with, died over the weekend on Sunday. And I just called her name 3 times so that she could remember. A lot of people were calling her name because she was a somewhat famous poet. And I just called her name and said her age and said her birth date and her death date, and described her so that she could hear and remember who she was as she was transitioning through. I don't know what her spiritual practice was, but that she could, in this disorienting time, that she could remember, call upon the wisdom that she cultivated. So that we can cultivate these practices us along every part of our journey, even the ones that are disorienting and painful and confusing, maybe especially those. I'm gonna just end with this and then take some questions. In the summer of 2018, so 2018 was a really terrible year for me, if we're gonna qualify it like that. 2013 was also a really bad year. That was the year my mother died. She died beginning of the calendar year, the Gregorian calendar, and it was very, very hard. I think she died on my brother's birthday or the day after his birthday. So he was like, great. And but 2018 that year, I went through a really weird, the first thing was the collapse of Shambhala, through these reports of this systemic and intergenerational culture of those particular sets of reports from Project Sunshine were about sexual abuse, but also just racial violence, and class-based violence, and just general misogyny and patriarchy. And that just exploded, right? And then I went through this breakup that was really weird and hard. And my dog died December 2018. And I remember talking to David that summer, many people, but I remember we were having a Zoom, I think, conversation. And we were talking about how, if you don't mind, I won't share this with you, but how exhausted we were, how physically drained our bodies were. And I cried so much. I mean, I cried. And practice was so fucking hard. And I didn't want to hear no basic nothing goodness, enlightened nothing, fuck, what? And I remember thinking to myself, and maybe having some conversations, what is basically good about this situation? In particular, my heart teacher, my root guru, being revealed to be a predator. And I kept coming back to that question over the years, last 3 years. And one extraordinary thing that has happened is that the whole world opened up. What I thought was my Dharma world, And it was rich, and it was full of wonderful people and good teachers and wonderful teachings. But what I thought was enough, I've got this, really was revealed to be a limitation. And what's happened through incredible pain and dark nights of the soul and disorientation and confusion and rage and physical revulsion and deep reflection has been a new set of connections. Some old connections remaining and others being made. And a kind of fearlessness that I didn't have before. Because really everything fell apart. There was all sorts of stuff going on in my job too. It was like every stable thing, mostly, not everything. I was like, I still had housing, and my health was relatively okay that year. And, but all the stability crumbled. And yet I still wanted to practice. The Dharma was like a shining jewel in my mind. So I let my body grieve, and that's not something that I've always been good at. And I've learned to let the teachings of basic goodness pierce my heart so that tears are a sign of my connection. They're not used to manipulate or to escape something, but they're a sign of just me experiencing feelings. I think I'll stop there and invite your questions or comments or reflections.
Thank you so much, Shante. I wanted to just speak to, this moment, which is, because this happens a lot in the Zoom virtual space. It's like when we're together, the power of everything you just shared, when we're together in the same room, there's a way in which it's like it's right there with us, and this just feels like, I don't know if anyone else has this feeling, it feels like it goes out and reverberates in the universe. And that's why there's often these awkward kind of seeming silences, right? Because everything you said is just reverberating out so far in it feels so big. And it's almost hard to know where to come in. I do have so many questions and comments and gratitude for everything you shared, but that I just wanted to remark upon using this medium. It just, I don't know if anyone else has that thing. It's like goes out into the universe really far. And we're not all in the same physical space. So it's like the space of our minds and like,
Yes.
and that body,
Yeah.
that body, like that shared collective body that we have across these distances that are both like vast and also like very immediate. The body of just feeling our collective body in this format,
Yeah, it's like Zoom is training us in Dzogchen or something, or Ati. We're just resting. Or Mahamudra. We're just resting, yeah, with the like resting in space, together, apart.
Mm.
So deep, so deep. I do feel that too. I've had that experience. I had that experience last week with you. I have it all the time when I go to a powerful Dharma talk or just a powerful scholarly talk, or I'm just like, it feels very precious too.
I mean, one thing that I can maybe bring into the space by way of question is, you were talking about this like so beautifully. You were talking about the bodily experience of basic goodness, right? Like experiences, but basic goodness is we know it through experience, and there was a certain point where you were talking about like. If you can experience it, and I guess I wondered, like, is it outside of it, is it ever outside of experience? I mean, maybe not, but is it, and it kind of goes out, it goes deep in a way, but is it ever outside of our experience, or is it always contained in our experience? Like we just know that we'll always find it there.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I mean, basic goodness is the reality, we could say. It is the reality of reality. So it's a way of talking about reality. It's a way of talking about unfabricated reality, which, our experience of reality is completely fabricated, right? Not just the simulacrum of Zoom, but everything, our clothes, self, what we do, it's all, constructed. But basic goodness is, no matter whether it's constructed or unconstructed, whether it's raining or sunning, sun shining, that it's not something that can be, it's like matter. It's not something that can be created or destroyed, but it is something that can be encountered, experienced, touched, known. It's happening all the time. And so experience is a way of talking about when we're aware of that encounter, right? Basic goodness is not something that comes and goes. It's happening. But we kind of, forget, or think, oh, this is the worst, but is it? And sometimes I think about really bad situations, like one of my teachers, Lama Justin, is very strongly, I won't say forcing me, but encourages me to work with teachings around charnel ground. So when people practice they go and practice where there's bodies and chopped, dead bodies, and it's horrible places. And New York City is definitely a charnel ground, without a doubt, on many, many levels. And so rather than trying to get away from that experience, because of the training I've had and have continue to receive, and the teachings I have and continue to receive, and the blessings I have from the Nadralas and continue to receive, and the ancestors, there's a ability to hold more and more, right? Hold more and more. Sometimes gradually, sometimes. And so that is a training ground for me. And experiencing in even those horrible spaces, psychologically or physically, or energetically, mentally, spiritually, charnel ground is actually a good training, right? But we can back up and go back to, slight irritation. and it's easy for me to experience basic goodness in like tacos, you know, walking my dog, a beautiful rainstorm, the ocean, tree, hugging a tree, like that. Forget it. That sends me to another dimension. It's harder to experience basic goodness in a mosquito, seeing a rat on the street, cockroach, smelling, you know, someone homeless who smells really bad. I have a very sensitive nose. So some New Yorkers are just like, you know, sitting next to I'm like dying, you know. That's when it's hard. And so I'm like, okay, can you try to, in those experiences where when my habituated response is no, gross, yuck, I don't want that to exist in front of me, to maybe just not even like lean into, I don't know, but just open up to the fact that it's happening. I don't have to necessarily lean into it or anything like that, but just, oh, this is happening. And I don't have to try to erase it or make it not happen. I just can, oh. And then sometimes if I'm a little, I can like maybe take a deeper inhale of the stinky garbage, you know, for a moment, then I start dramatically coughing, right? So it's like that, it's like kind of like training myself to broaden my capacity for different expressions of basic goodness. And then I'm able to remain present when things are arising without, you know, fist to the sky. I've been fooled. It's not, you know, I can be like, oh, fuck. This is reality. Like, and reality sometimes is sharp and loud and cutting and blood red, right? Sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it's blue and violet and the flower open. And sometimes it's the, you know, it's the mouth of Jaws. And so that's like, I start with the conceptualization of it, and then I begin to test it out in my living experience, right? In my living and my movement through the world. And it's not something that's just my mind. Like I stub my toe, oh, that's basic goodness, but it's really, can I be with what's happening as an expression of just the beauty of being conscious? Fuck, no. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But it's something that I'm completely swimming in. So yeah, experience is one way to talk about when I want to cultivate my capacity to live in basic goodness as a way of experiencing reality.
It's so provocative. I love it.
Thank you.
I can jump in a little bit. This has been so juicy. Thank you so much. Maybe it's the Christian training, but I'm always like, oh, what about all the times I fall out of alignment and I'm not in integrity with my basic goodness? Like, what does that let happen? And we were talking about ahimsa, and I was just today, over the last couple of days, there's been like some little critters in the house, and one of them was a mosquito, and I was like, got you. And then one was like a big black fly that like somehow got into the kitchen and then got into our bedroom, and we were just like, oh, but I like lured it into the bathroom, and I was like and delicately, so I didn't smash the mirror. And I came back and I was like, I just slayed the dragon. Okay, but then today, the little puppy started was like, her. I was like, what is she growling at? It was a spider. And it was this beautiful, very scary looking, and I had a feeling jumpy spider. And I had the presence of mind to take a picture of it before I smashed it. But the desire to smash was so strong. And then afterwards, I was like, confession family, I just did this thing. And they were like, yeah, that's bad luck. And I don't typically do that. Usually I like to get a little container, but because there had been 2 previous instances of critters and I was like on a roll, the habituated relationship
killing
is
spree.
not my basic goodness. That's right. And so it just made me real, like, as you were talking, I was like, and if we don't do this, the default of being out of alignment is actually really quickly destruction. Like, it's like not even like, I have taken some pretty nasty spiders out of some houses, you know?
Yeah.
Like I have that inclination. That is my intention.
Yeah.
But in that moment, because maybe the puppy got scared, I don't know, I got protective. But it was just smashed. And so I am just thinking about like what our bodies practice when the posture isn't basic goodness.
Yeah. Woo.
And just some humility in that.
Yeah. Well, you
And
know,
really appreciating the invitation to mindfulness.
yeah,
Just really appreciating the invitation.
it's such a great example, you know. Basic goodness is always there. It's the air you breathe, it's the molecules, you know, it's the environment. It's like electricity, it's like atoms, right? It's like whatever the stuff subatomic, you know, it's the thread of reality. And you know, our relationship to it ebbs and flows, right? But even in when we're on a murder, you know, mass murder spree, we can, that our bad behavior can wake us up and make us desire. I mean, it's really interesting with bugs, right? I have a whole thing with like, yeah, spider. I'm afraid of spiders, but I'm like, spiders are, you know, like, okay, boo, 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 you know, whatever. Cockroach, okay, you know, whatever. It's like, do I not have the exterminator come every month? Oh, he's coming every month, you know. But you know, sometimes I remember someone asked me about this, and I said, well, sometimes if I like, you know, just I feel, and I say, may you be, I'm sorry, and may you be reborn in a higher realm, you know, free from, you know, I do a prayer. And I'm like, I don't know if that's, you know, but because it's like they say, anyway, when they say in the Bardo, you experience everything you do. So I was like, oh my God, gonna experience giant mosquitoes. But having some awareness of what I'm doing, right? Like, right. And you know, in some places, well, you know, for here we had, you know, mosquitoes carry West Nile virus or malaria. So it's like, oh, have my blood. I mean, I don't know, you know, it's like, but what you're saying about the habituation is like, let's say, the enemy of basic goodness, right? Just when we go on autopilot, when we're just unconscious, right? And so, but that habituation can sometimes, when we do it enough, and at some point our awareness kicks in, and we're like, oh, I've just been in habit, right? You know, for 3 seconds or 3 days or 3 years or 3 decades. But then the quality, we yearn for sanity again, right? And we say, what is my relationship to these critters? You know, that's good, you know, and it may not change. We may not, I mean, you know, flies are, I mean, they're part of the ecosystem, but you know, so we cultivate this relationship through our experiences, you know, and it's not easy. You know, this is part of a question that's coming up for me with, you know, because of the food plan I'm on now, I'm eating more meat, more than I have in a really long time, like maybe 20 years. And I have a lot of allergies to a lot of vegan, like I can't eat tree nuts and soy and stuff like that. So, you know, I do try to have a lot of plant-based fatty kind of foods, but it's also, anyway, what, right? And but I think about it today, I prayed over my food, said my prayer over food, and I'm thinking about this life of this being, right? And it probably suffered. It probably wasn't like raised on a farm with like, it was one pig, you know what I mean? And then at the end of its life, it was, gently, ushered into the next. So I thought about that. I thought about the eggs I was eating. Were they, I mean, whatever the label says, were they, or are these chickens being treated? So that, it's not so much to have an answer, but it's to have that in my consciousness. And I've made different decisions about that. I've been vegetarian for long periods of time in my life, vegan. And so it's a question that's up for me. Is this an alignment for me right now? And so that's that. It's though this stuff is all relational, it's also personal, right? We have to come to, it has to be from us, right? Not any of this stuff, the Buddha was like, test my words, you know what I mean? So it's the imposition, imposing is one thing, but really embodying it, really deciding for yourself, this actually feels in alignment with wakefulness, and it may look different than someone else's. And that's all I can hope for in a day, is like, have I been doing things that lead me toward more less sleepiness, and it's like some days are really good and some days I'm just choosing the sleepiest of activities, I'm like, I want to be a fucking sleep, but then the next day I might be like, okay, well that felt good for like an hour, but now I want to be awake again. And that's the quality of basic goodness. The light of basic goodness cannot be extinguished. It's always been lit. It can't be extinguished. It can be hidden. We can forget it, but it's always there when we call upon it. So thank you. Appreciate that, Yasmin.
Yeah, I just want to express my gratitude very quickly. Shante, thank you so much. David as well for teaching last week. Shante, I heard you in 2017 at the Shambhala Center after many years of meditating on my own, and like tonight, your humility and your wisdom and and your humor spoke to my heart, and that's what I was seeking.
Yeah,
I'd had a falling out with another community, not a falling out, that's too dramatic, but yes, I grabbed my cushion and I walked out. Nothing that dramatic, but yeah, I had, I just, anyway, I won't go down that road, but so returning to a community, and having the gift of you being the person who led the meditation that night was such a profound experience for me, and so I just want to pay my respects and my deep gratitude that despite the pandemic, despite a million reasons for any of us not to show up, and for you to say, I'm too busy, I've got too many things, I can't do this, but just I have deep gratitude to both of you for continuing to share the wisdom and to do it in such a humble, accessible, beautiful, basic goodness kind of way. without making it too heady or too, yeah, too academic. I'm
Yeah.
a very simple man, and the way you teach is very accessible to me. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. You made me think too of, when I was talking about the relational body, it's very interesting, to David's point too about Zoom, it's like, I do contemplate sometimes the idea of the communal body, the Sangha, right? Particularly as not just with COVID, but I would say the combination of COVID, climate crisis, financial instability, and scandal, that many established sanghas, both in the East and West, all over the world, are disappearing. I mean, just dissolving, right? Not, and not even, I don't know if, people are practicing or not, or being absorbed to other places. And so I do think this idea of being connected to, for at least for me, multiple micro sanghas, or groups of people, or whether that's virtually or a hybrid or in person, whatever it is so important, because I think, like, well, okay, Buddha Maitreya, the Buddha of the future, is probably the Sangha, right? Like, or at least that's an aspect of it where, I really do feel the age of saviors is over. We had that, we had Christ and Buddha Shakyamuni and Muhammad and all these amazing people when the world could kind of hear that, but now I feel like the world can only hear crazy people now, honestly, right? It's like the world can only hear fascists. So, but I think multiple voices of, my other teacher, Lama Rod, likes to say this thing, which I think is so profound. It's so simple, it's almost easy to miss, but he talks about, one of the first things, that forget all the whatever about meditation, it's just like self-regulation, just like physically learning, right? Like, remember when you first started sitting and just physically learning how to kind of be relatively still for some amount of time was really hard. Just not popping up and doing whatever you wanted, just having some sense of even though it's the most basic, simple human thing you can do is just sit in space and look, can be really, really, really disturbing and uncomfortable. So just that aspect of regulating your own physical body at first, and then regulating your mind and regulating your breath, can have such a profound effect on us, but also on how we interact with the world. I mean, I really was that person. I was that New Yorker who was almost every day getting into screaming matches with strangers in the street. About what? I don't know. But I was like, oh yeah, mother, you're not gonna, right? I was just and then I remember when I would keep doing it, but I would notice. I was like, and then I remember when, someone said something and I stopped myself. And I was like, huh. And I could feel all this inside, kill them. And I was like, just keep walking, crazy person, me. And so this part of that came from being around other sane seeming people, sitting down. For a while I would go to the Shambhala Center. Before that I was going to Soka Gakkai, and I would go every day. But I was going to Shambhala Center Monday through, they used to have open sits Monday through Friday. And I was going before class. When I was in graduate school, I would go after, oh, people want to go to the bar. I was like, I'm going to meditation. I would go and sit. And just being around other people sitting and walking, it regulated me. So that, the Sangha can be an irritant, it can be a source of enlightenment, but it can also regulate us, right? That body. And I think sanghas can be smaller now. I think sometimes sangha, a big, mega church or whatever, but it can just be 3 people, 2 people. And that thing of like not being alone in our practice, I think it's so important, particularly in COVID, particularly as we're living through climate crisis, particularly as we're living through economic upheaval, climate migration, all kinds of stuff. We need each other, and we're going to continue to need each other. As I don't know if you noticed, prices of things have gone up, you know, and so mutual aid and practicing together, all these other things we pay thousands of dollars to go sit on a mountain with some, that's over. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, you know, let's sit together in our living room in person or over Zoom, and let's just practice together and keep it very simple and hold each other, you know? So that we've gotten very creative now with COVID, and it's revealed, COVID has revealed, even though it's been devastating, right, for the world, it's revealed our insanity, the insanity of working all the time, the insanity of not making things accessible, the ways that we just go, right? And so I just am so appreciative of you all. Your practice invigorates me, you know, and makes me feel like, okay, yeah, I can keep going, you know, because it's hard, it's lonely, it's painful sometimes, it's but at the same time, it's also such a joy. So thank you very much for your kind words and for your presence. So I want to just we're at 8:40, and I want to be mindful of the time. Like I said, I think we're back. David is teaching October 20th, and I'm teaching the 27th. But Gail will let you know about what's happening next week.
So thank you, Shantae. I am very grateful for having been present for your teachings today. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who has shown up tonight and who will be watching this particular online Dharma gathering. Please join us next week for the weekly Dharma gathering, and that will be an open sitting, which will be led by Sheena Brockington. This is free, so when you go to register, you just plug in the code WDG free at checkout, and you will be able to go and enjoy this. Sheena is fabulous, and it is so good to go and be with other people for doing that sitting. So and then finally a plug, you know, consider becoming a subscriber to WDG if you have not already done so. We have a 7-day free trial that you can find on the website, so tell your friends. And in addition, please make sure to follow us on Instagram at Weekly Dharma and Facebook at Weekly Dharma Gathering. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I also just want to say one more thing. I don't think that's been added to the script. We also are now adding we're putting talks, Sheena's and Alex's too, putting talks on YouTube that are free, past. So let me, if I can just put, you can watch past Weekly Dharma Gathering talks at your leisure. So let me just put the link tree in. And then people can have that. There was like, so our goal is to eventually have all of the teachings up there from the last almost 3 years. So there are a few. Sheena, how many are up right now? Do you know?
I think we might have 4 published.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. And yes, Sheena is teaching next week. And then a week after that, I believe it's Renee Rivera, who is a really great insight teacher. And then David and I are back on the 20th and 27th. So thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.